The sound of that tractor means it's time for us to go to work. Welcome to the Give Us the Dirt podcast, powered by Hoopah Grading Company. My name is Brandon, and I am your host. So today's going to be a little different for us. On the Give Us the Dirt podcast, we've been used to hearing stories of men and women that have grown up playing in the dirt and that have made a career in construction, literally have helped reshape the landscape of our communities. And although our guest today doesn't necessarily fit that mold, the work that he's doing is having a huge impact on the construction industry. This episode's really special to me because not only does our guest have a great story to tell, but he's also one of my best friends, and he's been a great partner to Hoopah Grading. Recently awarded Most Admired CEO by Charlotte Business Journal, our guest today is a creator, an innovator, collaborator, and storyteller. He's a seasoned serial entrepreneur currently holding the position of CEO at Wheelhouse Media and COO of Momentum Properties. For the past 10 years, he's been growing these organizations into global scale and recognition. So while other industries have used media to tell their stories and influence purchasing decisions for many years, the construction industry has been predominantly relying on reputation and relationships to do that. And although we may be a little late to the game, the use of media has become the new standard for our business. Training, development, recruiting, business development, community relations, internal communications, you name it, it now requires the use of video and media technology. John and his team at Wheelhouse are pressing into this space in a big way and helping construction companies compete for talent and business. While you may find this episode a little different from our recent podcast, we promise it will be just as entertaining to listen to. Today, we're going to let this award-winning storyteller tell us his story. John, welcome to the Give Us the Dirt podcast.
What an intro, man. I appreciate
You like that?
Yeah, well, it's better than most.
You know, I had a little bit of an easier time writing your intro than most. I feel like I know your story.
Yeah, a little bit. No, that's good. It's good. I don't often brag on some of that stuff. Like, we got a great team of people that have grown the business. It's not like I grew Wheelhouse Media, right? But it's always fun to hear. You know, we did turn 10 years old this year, so, we still have a lot of pinch yourself moments.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
What
cool.
a great story. You know, this whole episode is going to be different. It even started different because you, of all the episodes we've had and all the people that have come through this studio, you were the first one to realize that we don't have to wear headphones.
You don't have to wear headphones, Brandon.
I've been wearing headphones for the last 25 episodes.
You don't have to wear headphones.
You're
I
right.
can hear you just fine.
That's incredible. Why did nobody else tell me that?
I have no idea. You probably should wear headphones. But I just didn't want to, so I convinced you that it wasn't necessary.
Well, that just shows how good you are at what you do. So, do you remember when I told you that we wanted to start a podcast at Hoopah Grading?
Yeah, I do.
Be honest. What were your first thoughts?
I said, "Wow, what are you doing? Who's going to listen to it?" That's exactly what I said. I was, if nothing, we've always been honest with each other.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't wrap my head around it.
Yeah.
But you proved me wrong. I've seen it grow.
Say that again, please.
Yeah, well, I won't. Elizabeth isn't here, but yes, you proved me wrong.
Oh, no, it's been great. We didn't know what was going to happen with it either, but it's been fun. We've been just blown away by the reception we've gotten from the industry. It's been so cool to see it grow and happen, and now I'm excited to have you on it. So,
appreciate it, bud.
You've seen these things before. You know how we introduce our guests. So how would Erica introduce you to a group of strangers?
Erica's really humble. The only thing she brags about ever is me. God bless her. So, but she, in a group of strangers, she would just say, "This is my husband. He's a hardworking man. He's a good husband and a good dad." It's really interesting, and you know this. The spouses of entrepreneurs carry such a tremendous amount of weight. So, for her humility, and she's not great in groups of strangers either. She's often the one not talking, and she stands behind me a lot because I'll talk to a hole in the wall. But she's always been my biggest fan. As an entrepreneur, we're gone a lot. And the hours are crazy. And again, you know this from Dream on 3, right? So the spouses of entrepreneurs to me are like the greatest people on the planet. They have to have patience and they have to be resilient. I'm leaving Wednesday. I'm gone until Sunday. And I got 3 kids. So she is not only the CEO of my life, she runs our house, and she's incredible. So however she introduces me, I don't really care. She's my hero.
I love that.
Yeah,
That's
she's
so,
cool.
and a lot of times we focus on the business leaders and the ones that have started these companies, but behind every one of those people is someone that's really supported them and made that possible. And you're right, we don't give enough credit to these spouses that are helping us. Elizabeth's leaving today. She's doing her thing. I was just telling her last night what a blessing it is that we're able to do some of these things together, because, that's rare. Some people, they're going different directions all the time. So to be able to experience the wins together.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Well, just Sunday at church, I was talking to a guy and talking, well, what's up this week? And I told him we were going out of town. And I was talking about Erica, about, we got, like, I leave Wednesday. We got dance Wednesday night. It was baseball Thursday. There's a baseball tournament this weekend.
Yeah.
And not to mention all the, just lunch. Right, just feeding the kids plus her life. So yeah, she hustles. But you know what? I told this guy on Sunday, it's like she gets it, and she's always gotten it. I mean, I haven't had a real job my whole life. I was a bartender. I met her while I was doing that, and then got a job, and then bought that company, and then sold that company and started another one. Lost that company and started another one. So she's never known anything different in our relationship. So she's always kind of got it, right? Which is a blessing to me, because it would have been hard to meet somebody in the middle of this journey, you know what I mean? And try to explain the draw and the commitment that it takes to just drive all the time.
Yeah, I don't know what's harder, being an entrepreneur or being married to an entrepreneur.
Guaranteed being married to one. Guaranteed. It's tough, but she's a trooper.
Let's talk about, just give it some context real quick. You talked a little bit about your history and coming up. You hit it real quick, but why don't you tell our listeners how we met, how we got to know each other?
Sure. So, I mean, it's going on 9 years now?
Yeah.
It's a while. I mean, Wheelhouse started in 2012, and it wasn't long after that. A mutual friend of ours introduced us, and you invited me over to your house. And which most of my meetings don't happen in the backyard or on a patio over a beer. But I was like, okay, I like the way this is starting. And it was you and Elizabeth, and you told me about Dream on 3. And I think I told you, I said, Brandon, I don't know what I can do for your organization or how I can help, but I'm in. I fell in love with you guys first, and I think that's important in business relationships as well as personal. And I fell in love with you guys and the vision you guys have for the company and the business and the organization. And I was like, I don't know what this is going to turn into or how to be. Quite honestly, Brandon, I was like, these people can't afford me, right? And Wheelhouse.
And we couldn't.
I was like, I can't. And at the time, I couldn't afford to donate it. We were so young, and we were coming up, but I was like, I don't know. We're going to figure something out, because I don't know. We were both passionate about what you were doing. It made sense.
Fast forward 10 years, 9 years, here we are. You've done every dream experience that we've done at Dream on 3. You and your team have been amazing to us, and I think it's been good for everybody. But what was amazing about that is we were talking, and we've been introduced by a mutual friend, but then the more we talked, we realized that we had played soccer against each other. We went to high schools in the same town and played soccer against each other growing up, and you had kicked our butt every year.
Yeah, I tried.
So John was a goalie for the Bucks, and I was a forward at the Twisters. And John is a big man. If you're not watching this on YouTube right now, you're just listening. So John is a big man, and you put him in front of a goal, and that goal shrinks. Like, there's not a lot of room to score on John, and you wouldn't think he'd be as agile as he is, but he can move.
For a big guy, I get around.
And so we realized we played soccer against each other, and then we started down this journey. You guys have been amazing to us, and now you're doing some work at Hoopah. And so I want to talk about how did you find yourself? I know you guys do commercials. You do big stuff with big celebrities and big companies, but you found yourself in the construction space.
Well, look, I mean, a lot of it, I think, stemmed from you and I's relationship and building a relationship here at HGC. But, when you're starting a company and a business, especially in the content space, you endeavor to do big things with big names, but it's not the reality. It's like you take what you get and you grow on those relationships. And that's exactly what we did at Wheelhouse. We stair-stepped our way in to relationships. We treat our clients and our customers like family. I mean, I tell the guys at the office all the time, yeah, we're a production studio, we're a content studio, but we're in the people business. It's relationships, that drive everything about what we do. We can get hired on a big job once, but that's not our goal. I want to do all of your content from here until, right? And that's exactly how we got into this space, is building good relationships. We do what we say we'll do. We have fun while we're doing it. And at the end of the day, we deliver a piece of content or product for our clients that builds value for their organization. And that's all of our goals. Yeah, we want to do cool, fun, big stuff, but at the end of the day, we just want to drive value for our clients. And so we tiptoed into this world, doing some work with you guys here, and then all of a sudden, through some of those relationships, doing some work for Carolina Caterpillar. Now we're doing some work for, it's kind of cool, for D.H. Griffin out of Greensboro, where we grew up. Is talk about sports. I think every Little League baseball jersey or rec soccer shirt I had D.H. Griffin on the back of it.
Oh, they do so
those
much.
Those guys were sponsoring sports all through my whole childhood. So when that thing came in, I was like, oh, this is great. And you know what happens, Brandon? We did that. We did Rogers Builders, great project with him. You know what happens is every time we're on the phone with those guys, I say, hey, Brian McManus or Brandon Lindsay? And they're like, oh, yeah, we love those guys. And all of a sudden, we're in the door.
One big family.
It's relationships, man.
It is. It's one big family. And, it's what's cool about this is, and I remember, so I was with Martin Marietta prior to coming over to Hoopah, and I remember the industry as a whole, no one wanted to be talking about their stories. It was like the construction industry worked very hard to not be seen and not be heard. Like, we want to be out of the spotlight. We don't want anybody to know that we're out there. It was almost like the industry was scared to tell their story. And now
I wonder why.
I think it was, from Martin Marietta's standpoint, for so long, no one wanted to have a quarry in your backyard. And so it's like, if we don't make any noise and we don't talk, maybe they won't know that we're here. Yeah. And I think construction companies too, I think it's just part of who they are. They didn't want to brag. They didn't want to create a brand and talk about what they're doing, but it became essential. It became essential to business, and telling your story was part of what you had to do to recruit talent, to go out to get business. So I want to hear you tell, why is it so important for companies to share their stories?
Well, I think it's more relevant now than ever. Look at turnover rates, right? Not just in your industry, which are high, and not at Hoopah, but industry-wide. And not just your industry, but turnover rates are terrible right now. So you've got to differentiate yourself in some fashion. You have to. You got to be better. You got to treat your people better. You got to give them better access to good equipment and good tools. You have to differentiate yourself in order to get talent. There's no doubt. I mean, like, the business development side of things, I think, is easy. People understand that. You got to be good at what you do. You got to deliver on budget, all the things that are important. But now I think more than ever is telling stories about who you are, how you treat people, what's the culture of the organization you're building. Because people, you look at the exodus in the agency space. I don't know, and this is kind of off topic from dirt, but in our world, the ad agency world, there's huge exodus of the top talent in the world. They're leaving because that's been a grind. They've been pushed to work 70, 80-hour weeks for years. It's just been the standard. And over the past 3 years, it changed. The landscape of that industry changed, and the talents is like, I don't have to do that to be successful. But no different here. People are like, I don't have to, we say a lot, this is, it's not your granddad's construction company. I don't have to sweat. I mean, you got to put in effort. You got to drive. You got to work hard. But it's not a dirty job all the time. There's other options, and you guys are using content to train people about what those other options are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So give me some examples of how construction companies are using video and media in their businesses.
Sure. Well, web presence is big, right? And content is still king there. Especially when you look at the new age of content with social media and TikTok and, Instagram and the way people are consuming content. You used to say TikTok, and people our age are like, huh? buddy, it's time. Like, we're in this age. Snapchat, I didn't even know what Snapchat was. I lead the youth at our church. If I'm not on Snapchat, I don't communicate with the teenagers in my house or in my youth group.
Right.
It's no different with us trying to meet an audience. So you have to be telling your story, and you have to be generating content. You got to build your website. You need to stand out from a crowd. You got to build those differentiators, because those are going to be the things that matter. In your industry, like most, margins, we talk about profitability and revenue and all this. Margins are tight, and the reality is, with information, it's like buying cars. Everybody knows how much they cost. So the margins get smaller and smaller and smaller. So you're not just going to win work off of doing it cheaper or so you got to do it better, and you got to do it more efficiently, and you got to do it safer, and you got to do it with the right people. And the only way to do those things and to differentiate yourself by telling your story.
And that's all you're looking for. You're just looking for that slight edge, right? The work is the same.
The work is the same. We tell people all the time, we're pretty good at what we do. We're not the best. I'm not Martin Scorsese. We're not doing that.
Right.
There's always going to be somebody that executes better than you. If you don't think that, you're probably wrong, and you're going to have a short career. There's always going to be somebody that's better. There's going to be younger guys that have more drive than us. But you know what? We're going to have fun. We're going to have a good time. We're going to do great work. And we're going to build. Like you said, it's all in the little things. It's about treating your people well on set, same as you do on a job site. It's about taking those breaks. It's about feeding them. It's about whipping the charcoal grill up on site and feeding your people. It's those little things that take you to the next level.
Yeah, and trying to understand how people are consuming information these days, right? They're on their phones. They're looking. Yeah. We partner with BuildWit, and they're doing some incredible stuff with training and videos and technology, because they understand how people are consuming information right now.
Sure.
And you mentioned TikTok, and I'm sure a lot of people are sitting here listening to this thinking, look, we're a construction company. I'm not messing with TikTok. But that's how you reach people. That's how you're going to engage people in this industry. That's, we've had these podcasts. We've had some incredible guests on this podcast, and Jackson posted something on TikTok about an excavator smashing a watermelon, and it got 100 times more views than anything I've ever done sitting here at this table.
Yeah.
So it's just, people are consuming this kind of information. How do you reach your audience? How do you tell your story and get it in front of people?
Yeah, well, it's what you guys are doing here. It's marketing. It's building an entire kind of 360 approach to how you tell your story. The content part is one of it, of course. You got to do that. But it's also investing in how to distribute it. It's little things on TikTok that open a door and open a window and then drive people to a website for more information. It's all those little things, and having this kind of 360 marketing approach that understands the goals behind every little piece of it. We talk about this podcast, right? How do you, my brain always works around ROI, return on investment. How are you going to turn a piece of content or a thing you do into an investment? And then really, how do you define that investment? Is it monetary? Sometimes, sure, that's the easy way to measure it. Or is it part of that whole 360 build, right? Where, it's a minute piece, right? Podcast isn't going to generate X amount of dollars versus X amount of costs. It doesn't show up real well on a P&L. Yeah. But, the thing that you're doing about telling other people's stories generates buzz. And all of a sudden, somebody might hear a podcast or watch this thing somewhere, and they're like, man, these guys are doing things different. And now they're going to your website, and they're like, holy cow, they really are doing something different. And then all of a sudden, they're here for a Monday morning, new hire orientation.
Yeah,
that's the way it works. So you guys are doing it right.
Well, thank you. You guys have helped us tremendously. So I know some of the, and I don't know, can you talk about some of the big names you worked with and companies you worked with? Or you?
Yeah, we can. We've been really blessed, right? We turned 10 years old this year, which is kind of still wild. So, and we grew really rapid in the first few years, and we got really lucky. And we were doing work with Bank of America and Duke Energy, a lot of the big local companies around here. And then we've expanded. Rapid growth model for us was partnering up with big ad agencies. We had small. We're in Charlotte, so small reach, right? Our world lives in LA, lives in New York, lives in Atlanta. Not that Charlotte's a small market, but it's smaller. So we needed to partner up with other ad agencies around the world that had access to the big clients, the Valvolines and the Coca-Colas and the Pepsis of the world. And that's what we did. We became a provider of services, basically. We become an extension of these agencies' internal models and their internal workings. And all of a sudden we get access to different clients. And we get to work with some of these really big names, Barefoot Wine and PayPal and some of the other businesses. So now, over the course of the last 5 years, the agency model is changing. And like I told you about this mass exodus of talent out of that space, but it's also, brands are looking for niche groups that are nimble, that are hungry, that are aggressive, not afraid to make weird moves, and that can turn on a dime and shift. And you know what? We found ourselves kind of perfectly in that world. So all of a sudden, some of the big brands started looking for people like us. And one thing that the pandemic did, it did a lot of bad, but I think it also did a lot of good for people that are like us, that aren't in New York, that aren't in LA. The world became kind of smaller. It didn't really matter where you are, and it doesn't really matter where you are. We can be anywhere. And over the course of the last 2-3 years, people have realized that it really doesn't matter where you are. So,
you talk about weird moves in niche spaces. I mean, nobody in your space is thinking about hitting the construction industry.
No.
And we were just talking about that before the podcast started, that you guys have found yourself in this space, and it's been really good and you enjoy it. So the reason I wanted you to talk about some of these clients and some of these big names, I mean, you've worked with big name actors and everything. What are the most challenging parts about working in the construction industry and doing big?
Well, look, the weather is a big one.
Yeah.
I mean, we had a crew just last Monday and Friday, on a demolition site outside, and it was about 100 degrees, and it just doesn't matter how much water you drink. Our guys aren't really accustomed to that, So you look over, and there's a young man and a woman standing over there with a hard hat on, long sleeves, jeans, boots, and they're looking at us like we have no business there.
Whole new respect for that.
A whole new respect for being outside and the grind. The other thing is the job sites. A lot of times we're accustomed to being in a studio that we control everything. We control the lighting, the sound, everything. And you get out there, and all of a sudden you realize we have zero control over what's happening on a job site, and the priorities are different. When we walk onto most sets, the priority, the main focus is what we're there to do. A lot of times we find ourselves on a construction site where we're kind of piggybacking real work.
Yeah.
And we're trying to get we're not the priority. So trying to get into those worlds and still get the right content, good content that moves the needle, and then not get crushed by a big piece of equipment,
the safety piece of it,
or not get in the way. We don't like to get in the way, but that's a big challenge, man.
That's funny you say that, because I imagine most places you go and they say, hey, we got a production crew on site today, and they're like, oh man, everything's stopped. You go out to the job site, you're like, what?
Well, you can't. You guys' world moves at a pretty fast pace. Yeah. And that was one of the things that caught me off guard or really surprised me about the industry, is the pace at which everybody works. And, there's so much alignment between our industry and the construction industry. And I learned this mostly just last week shooting some interviews here, and talking to people about the management, the plan, the controls. You're on a job site, there might be 200 people working a job site. We might be on a commercial set where there's 200 people working a commercial set, and having the team leadership and the structure and the hierarchy of control, right, on a set for safety, for efficiency, for all those things. I was blown away by that. I grew up, my grandfather owned a construction company in Greensboro, so I grew up, as a kid every summer, that's what we did. But back then, we're running a wheelbarrow with bricks, or swinging a hammer. It was hard, back-breaking kind of work. And you get on one of these sites, it's just a totally different atmosphere.
That's funny you picked that up, but it's hard to see that everything that goes into coordinating those efforts out on a job site, especially a large job site where you got multiple crews and so many people out there. The coordination, the plan, we call it
beautiful
PPS, plan, path, schedule.
Yeah, man, it's beautiful.
And but I guess that does relate. So tell us some of the cool projects that you've done in the construction space.
Well, I think the one that I think is probably one of the coolest, we did a project for Rogers Builders, and I'll mess up some of the details so I won't get too in the weeds. But Rogers was putting together a building, and a lot of it was prefabricated environments that they were building on set. So what Rogers did was they partnered with all the subs that went into the pre-construction of that and built content for each part of the process, and then we built it into one kind of final piece of the puzzle or final large project about how that building came together. And you're talking about plumbing and electrical, and I mean, you know, these things, all the things that go into it. It's mind-blowing, right? When you look at a building that takes a year or 18 months to build from ground up to the top, and it just feels like it's short, small, incremental. It takes forever. But when you watch it and you're in it at that microcosmic kind of level, and you see what happens on a daily basis, it's major change every day. And it was really cool for me and for our group to do that and see it kind of go from start to finish. I think that's probably the coolest one we've been on.
That's awesome.
You know, the other stuff is like in your world where it's maybe not building, you know, the brick and mortar, but it's all the prep. The cool thing about this side of it is, you know, we equate it all the time to nothing happens without you guys. And then, you know, we all grew up playing in the dirt, right? You know, I remember me and my brothers would play G.I. Joe and we'd build these little dirt forts out in the backyard, and then we'd have little bulldozers and whatever, and we'd run over our G.I. Joe guys. You guys do that for a living, you know, and you got the Sims here. All my guys, every time we're in here, they just want to ride the Sims. They want to get on the Sim and feel what it feels like to operate those things. So I don't know. I think it's a cool industry to be in.
It is cool. What have you learned? You talked about a little bit of it, just seeing what all goes into planning these projects and coordinating these job sites. Anything else you've learned from folks in this industry? You've met a lot of people.
I have met a lot of people. You know what? The biggest takeaway, I think, and this is represented on site with D.H. Griffin just 2 weeks ago, was the quality of human being that works in this industry. It's almost second to none. And this is, we were on a job site. It was about 100 degrees outside, and I wasn't actually there. It was one of my other producers there, and the guy that owns that business at the end of the day, you know, came up to our producer and handed him $200 in cash. You know, and this doesn't happen in our industry, right? And he was like, you know what, you go get dinner on me, you know, for the crew. And he was there side by side with our team. This guy owns that business, multi-million-dollar business. Yeah. And he was on site with our guys side by side the whole time, supporting, bringing them waters, servant leadership. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And I've seen that not just at that business. I've seen it here at HGC. We saw it at Rogers. You know, I think that's a big differentiator about where this is. It's good people. You
know, that's probably a common thread through this industry, because those people that are making the decisions to bring you in and do these projects, that are running the businesses, they've been there. Yeah. They've been on the crews. They know what it takes and how hard these folks are working. And so that's really cool that he came up and recognized, hey, I want to take care of you folks. I want to take care of your production team.
It was awesome. And the takeaway that day specifically was, man, if he's treating, you know, a bunch of strangers with cameras that way, how does he treat his team? Yeah. You know, and you got to think that trickles down, you know, and that kind of support happens. So, yeah.
Have you found any really good actors and actresses in the construction industry? That's got to be a challenge, right? Yeah. I mean, you're used to working with people that can do this stuff. Yeah. And then I know some of the people we put in front of you.
It's a challenge, buddy. You know, it's a challenge. But the interesting thing about that is there's no better way to tell a story about culture, innovation, or whatever, than to hear it straight from the horse's mouth, right? Yeah. And you guys are good about putting your people front and center in content.
That wasn't easy. The first time I told Brian that you were coming and he had to get on camera,
he was not thrilled.
Oh, he was terrified. But now he does it every week.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know, you laugh about talent. It's tough. Yeah. Sometimes you got to pull and pull and pull and pull. But what happens, Brandon, is exactly what we want to happen. Is authenticity rings true. And you know what you start to realize, especially here, but not just here in this industry, people are passionate about what they do. They're really passionate about the team atmosphere that's grown in this industry, and it comes through. They may be nervous. They usually hate us when they see us. But you know what happens at the end of an interview or being on site is it's high fives and hugs and handshakes. Yeah. And it's appreciation for pulling that information out of them. Because you know what happens at the end of it is, I said earlier, you get authenticity, and that stuff translates directly to the audience. And all of a sudden, it's somebody that didn't think they knew, or was nervous, or didn't think they knew what they were talking about. I think, and they don't say this much, but you can kind of see it, is they realize, I know more than I thought I knew about this. And it translates, man. It's kind of a fun thing to do.
Well, you and your team are really good at being able to get them comfortable and talk them through it and latch on to the thing where you say, all right, that's what they're passionate about. Yeah, let me capture that. Yeah. So, you know, we've talked about some of the technology and the ways that construction's using video and media to run their businesses. What's next? You guys are on the cutting edge of this stuff. What's next in that space? How do we maintain that slight edge?
It's a really good question. I think, look, you guys are a great example of this. Just from a technology perspective, what you're doing with the Sims here and training and education, I think that's a big part of it. Yeah, there's the marketing and the storytelling aspect, but taking advantage of the tools that are available and putting them into place in all the places that it's needed. It's education, it's safety awareness. We did trench rescue video not long ago. It's building training seminars and helping to develop good talent here. And then you got the marketing and the advertising and the storytelling side of that. And then you look at how technology is growing. You got virtual reality. You know, you guys use that a little bit in the Sims here, where you build an environment that's safe to learn. I've also seen it, you know, innovation there out here in the what do you call those? The dirt pits, the sand pits.
Oh yeah.
Where you guys are using technology to build small scale.
The remote controlled equipment. Super
cool. So I mean, I think you guys are doing a really good job of that. From a content perspective, you know, the way this industry's, you said it earlier, a little behind in building content and telling their stories. I think, you know, what we're doing now is still relatively cutting edge in this industry. But you start to get into drone technology and being able to tell big global scale stories for where you don't have to rent a helicopter anymore.
Yeah.
You know?
These are big sites.
Oh yeah, they're big sites. So I think there's a lot to do there. I think time lapse is a big place for this industry to live in. You know, like I said earlier, it may take 18 months to build a building, but if you can disseminate that down into 30 seconds, I think it's really cool. I think audiences react well to that kind of stuff, and it's not cost prohibitive.
Yeah.
You know, so
yeah. That's cool. So can you do this stuff? And for those that are listening that aren't utilizing anyone for video and this media, can you do this stuff without breaking the bank?
Absolutely. Look, that's a great question to start, but I say this how many times in a week. There's a product in every budget, right? Even almost if that budget's nothing. You know, because the way technology's advanced with our cell phones, thinking about content, there's so much that you can do without a company like ours or anybody that you can do internally to help tell your story. I think social media is a great use case for that, because the content doesn't need to be overly produced, right? And then there's so many steps that you can take along the process. At some point, maybe that's not enough, and you got to invest a little bit. But there's a product in every budget, right? Whether it's like building a house. You can build a 800 square foot house. You can build a 8,000 square foot house. You live in both of them, Brandon. Right? Both of them probably have a bed that you can lay your head down on. Yeah, some of them have more bells and whistles than the others. Some may be more efficient and effective than the other. But at the end of the day, they're both homes.
Yeah.
So if you think that way, don't be intimidated by it, right? It really comes out in communication, really understanding what your spend is, what you might need to spend, what you might have access to, and then what makes good sense. We talked about ROI earlier. A lot of people don't have a hard time understanding how to build ROI off a piece of content like we produce. And, somebody that's good and understands this industry can explain that pretty easily.
Yeah, I remember you bringing up ROI. Now you got Brian thinking about how this thing is not generating any return. So we're going to
cut that part.
We might need a sponsor now.
Okay.
We'll have to find.
Oh, now I know why I'm here.
All right, so this is the part where we say, give us the dirt. You are, serial entrepreneur. We talked about that in the intro. We talked about you just got CEO of the year. I know you never share that, but I get to share it because I can.
I appreciate it.
I think you've got a lot that you can offer. A lot. People that are running these businesses right now, they're entrepreneurs. They've come up through just sweat and hard work and grind. And so you, as an entrepreneur, a successful entrepreneur, talk to our audience about what that takes. You've already alluded to the juggling of
Sure.
work-life balance and everything else. It's like,
well, I mean, the first step is throw that out the window. Work-life balance. I don't really know what that means. Wheelhouse has been such a big part of my life. It's not work and life. It's all the same. And not just my life, my kids' lives. I mean, they're wearing the Wheelhouse hat. They understand what it takes to drive and what it takes to build something. And it just becomes part of our whole life infrastructure.
That's a great point. Somebody said the other day that it's not about work-life balance. It's work-life integration.
It is. It's integration. And is that bad? I don't know. I've told this a number of times. I've made the wrong decision on where I should be at times in my life. I've missed birthdays. I've missed, holidays. I've done it. I've made those decisions to grow the business. Was it right or wrong? I don't know. It was just it was the decision that was made at the time, and you make the best out of them, right? So, look, what I say is you work hard, you find something you're passionate about and you love. This was a job that, we just invented, for myself. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know the trajectory of what Wheelhouse would be. We surrounded ourselves, and I say we, our leadership team, my partners, we surrounded ourselves with people that are better at this than we are. Every step of the way, we worked our tail ends off and still do. And you find something that you're passionate about, and you're hungry about, and you love to do, and it's like nothing else really matters. It all starts to fall into place. We've never really chased the dollar, early on, right? You got to take every job you get. Right, and you're kind of chasing the dollar a little bit because you got bills to pay, mouths to feed. But we treat every job, regardless of the budget, with the same kind of amount of effort and energy. If we take the job, if we accept that role and responsibility to tell your story, we're going to go all in. And I think that's what it takes to be an entrepreneur as well. You just go with both feet, you dive head first, and you just go. A lot of people ask us all the time, it's like, how do you do it? How do you do that and run that business? And families like, I don't know, you just do it.
And that's one of the best qualities that I just love about you. It's that the answer is always yes, and then you say, what's the question?
Yeah. It's what I like to say. It's kind of yes until, but yeah, man.
All right, what's the question?
Okay, all right, well, okay, that may not work, but we'll find a way to make it work.
Well, there's nothing you can't do or won't do, or find a way to make it work.
Find a way to make it work, and sometimes the solutions aren't easy, right? But it goes back to surrounding yourselves with good people, and then you fast forward to where we are now, and the world turns into a lot more servant leadership, right? And that's a word. It's kind of hard. sounds kind of cliche, but it's not. And it happens naturally as an organization grows. I was a camera operator. I was a camera guy. I used to call myself a DP. I was never really a DP. I was a camera guy. But I hustled and I pretended well. And there was a whole lot of fake it till you make it. And I learned a lot. And what I learned was, man, that's not where my strengths are. I was pretty good at it. I was adequate. And until I met people that were better, I was like, oh, man, this is the way this is supposed to look. This is the way this is supposed to happen. And that happened, in kind of a lot of different positions along the way through our growth model. And, all of a sudden, what happens is you're not as good at that, and you got to find your role. And same as me, as a CEO, I got to find my role, where I'm going to be the most valuable to our organization as a whole and to the growth of it, which becomes a sustainable revenue model for all our people, And what happens is, as it grows, is you start to be a servant of your folks, whether you think that way or not, because that's the job and that's what naturally happens. I'm sure you see it both here and at Dream on 3. You start just being a support system. What do you need today? How can I make your job easier? And we're still a small business, so we wear a lot of hats. I may be directing a piece one day or producing a piece, but what doesn't happen too often anymore is where I'm behind the camera. One, because my guys don't have any faith in me to do that well anymore. As technologies advance, it's kind of like anything. It's like playing golf. If you don't swing the club enough, you're not good at it anymore. And it's the same way with cameras. So it was a long-winded answer.
It was a great answer, though, because you recognize that about yourself. You recognize that you can't be all things. And even though, and I think that would apply to a lot of people that are listening right now, they've grown the business. They've started it. They've done every job, every piece of it. They've done it themselves. And so to relinquish that to somebody else that is better than you at that, and to recognize that and then find yourself look at, all right, how do I support this team? Which is a weird spot to get to. It's, because you feel like you're not in it, you're not doing, but yet the role is, your job as CEO of the company is to support, to coach, to train, to develop, to secure the resources they need to be successful.
Well, it's not easy. Probably the hardest thing for me to do, be perfectly honest with you. If you ask me, are you micromanager? I'd say no. And then you go ask my wife or some of the guys that work with us, they'd say, he is. But you know what? You brought up a good point about coach and help. And one of the other things I've done in the past 2 years is also look for help. And I think this is relevant for a lot of these people we're talking to. I'm the CEO of Wheelhouse Media. What does that mean? I've never been a CEO before. I'm CEO because we founded this thing, and it's where I landed, right? And all of a sudden, you find yourself in this position. It's like, all right, I guess I'm the CEO, right? But what does that mean? And reaching out for people that have either been that, done that, or have some experience in it. And that's what I've done over the past couple years is engaged a coach to help me. Right? It's like with me, it was big on, I don't know if I'm doing this right. I don't have a benchmark. I don't have anything to gauge whether I'm good or bad at this. Right? You can look at the bottom line, whatever, but that can ruin you if you just look at the bottom line.
Oh yeah.
And so that's been a big help for me, finding people in my network that I think are really successful at leading. And getting advice and pulling advice, and then talking to folks. I got a great executive coach that helps me just understand and digest. It also helps me not to take the garbage home with me. I can leave it at the office sometimes. Yeah.
Well, John, thank you so much for coming in. So if someone is listening and they say, hey, you know what? I need to get into this. This is not something we've been doing a whole lot of at our company. We need some help with this. Have you got room?
Yeah, we're always ready.
There it is.
We very rarely say no.
There's that yes.
Yeah. We like telling people stories more than just about anything I do in the world, is because you get to learn about a new industry, about a new person, about a new thing, and it's like, okay, yeah, I can tell a story. We don't really tell a story. You guys are telling your story. We're just helping you digest it, right?
I think that's important. Like you're not creating this thing. Like when I got to Hoopah and started thinking, all right, we got to build a brand.
Yeah.
That is something that construction companies don't think about a lot. They are now.
Yeah.
But building a brand is critical to growing a business. But we didn't create a story. The story was there.
Yeah, the story exists.
We just had to tell it.
You just got to find a way to digest it and tell it and put it in a way that's going to be consumed the way you want it to be consumed.
So how does someone get in touch with you?
I mean, the best way is just go to the website. It's wheelhousemedia.tv, like television. There's all kinds of contact information, a lot of the cool visuals of the stuff we've done and the cool places we get to go. I mean, but that's the best way. Yeah. It's most direct, and you might see something you like.
We'll put a link on the podcast too and make sure people know how to get with you. And John, this has been fun for me because you spend every day trying to tell everyone else's story, and to be able to help tell your story a little bit and the success that you've had with your amazing team over at Wheelhouse. You guys are doing an incredible job. We appreciate all that you've done for us here at HGC, and I wish you all the success in the world, buddy.
It's my favorite partnership in anything we do almost. Let all the other people ignore that I said that, but working with you has been a dream, man. With Dream on 3 and now HGC, it's always fun to work with somebody you really like, and I don't get to do that all the time, right? And I don't know. It's just been good. We can probably cut that last bit.
No,
out.
Let's not cut. We're not going to cut that. Matter of fact, that's going to become our teaser.
That's right there. Your teaser.
Yeah. And we need to finish by saying that you were wrong again one more time about the Give Us the Dirt podcast.
Yeah, I was wrong. It's going to be a huge success.
John, thank you for being on the podcast.
Cheers, all right.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Give Us the Dirt. Our podcast is powered by Hoopah Grading Company in Charlotte, North Carolina, and produced by Well Run Media and Marketing. Visit our website at giveusthedirtpodcast.com and subscribe to this podcast on Apple and Google so you never miss an episode.